I think this trip is all about things you don't expect. Trying new foods and new combinations and new flavors. And you were going to show me something very special. What do we have here?
Quite a tasting.
We actually only have 2 of these left.
Oh my. It is such a wonderful collection.
It is beautiful.
Welcome to a new series of the A to Z of Wine with Shehnaz. Join me as we start our Portuguese wine journey in Porto.
I cannot wait to show you my veranda suite on the Viking Helgrim. This is going to be my home for the next week. Complimentary champagne to enjoy on the veranda outside. We have a free minibar that gets replenished every single day, including this gorgeous bottle of Vinho Verde from Quinta Aveleda, which we will be visiting on this trip. Let me show you some of my favorite bits of this room. We have the walk-in wardrobe. I love this space. Robes, loads of cupboard space because I have brought about 2 dresses a day. Lots of storage, hairdryer, slippers, more space here. Fantastic large bathroom, walk-in shower, so bags of space. I love this bed, very comfortable mattress. You can just sit down, watch Viking.TV with the river view of the Douro, and then outside to the balcony. Let me show you the Douro River, the new town, or the old town really, and of course, Louis I Bridge, built by Gustave Eiffel, the same person who built the Eiffel Tower, and just, you know, enjoy life on the river. Can't really beat these views, can you? We're at Graham's today and I have a very special guest amongst us. Vicky, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Vicky Symington, 5th generation family member of the Symington family. I actually currently work for marketing in our ennotourism department, part of which is the visitor centre here today. But very recently, I was actually previously Graham's brand manager, so this brand is particularly special to me.
And you were going to show me something very special, something that's just been released last month.
Yes, so we have our 50-year-old, the IVDP, the Institute of Port Wine, recently a year or so ago, opened up a new category to allow the port wine companies to release a 50-year-old. Graham's, we take our time, we make sure that quality is very much a priority for us. So my cousin Charles spent a lot of time working on getting really the perfect, most incredible blend. And we have the 50-year-old. So the 50-year-old is comprised actually of 2 very special wines to us. The first of which is the Casse Reserve 1969 wine, which Charles's father put aside in his birth year.
Wow.
Which is incredible that he's now using his own birth wine that was set aside for this incredible wine. The second is actually a blend of a 1970 and a 1972, which were blended together in 1982. And since then, 50% of this wine has evaporated. So as you can imagine, an incredibly concentrated. And 1970 is also the year that my family acquired the Graham's brand as well, so that's also very important to us. The 50-year-old, as you know, the age tawnies are an average, so it's an average of 50 years old. As I previously
So it might be
said,
a lot older then.
exactly. So if you do the math, the years are actually a
Wow.
lot older. It's an unbelievable wine, and we spent a lot of time also in terms of design to really do the blend justice. And we really wanted something that was true to Graham's, true to the heritage, but something a little bit different.
Yes.
So when we talk about aged tawnies, you'll see a lot of design around the barrels and the aging and the casks, and obviously that's an incredibly important part of it. And you know, part of the tour here at Graham's, you'll really see that and live that and get the smells and all that involves. But we wanted something that was a little bit different, that sort of told the story in a different way. So what we've actually focused on here is flora and fauna from the Douro. So we see...
So those are the different prints inside as well?
Exactly. So whilst the lodge is the home to where these wines age,
Yes.
we wanted the box to reflect the home of where these wines grow. So the Douro Valley. And with the 40 and the 50-year-old, you can see the different animals and the different fauna.
I love that.
Based on the rarity of how often you would see them if you're in the Douro. So we've got the otter, we've got the genet cat, which is incredibly rare to see. It's a wild cat. I've only ever seen it on those sort of hidden cameras that you put up in the mountains. I've never, and will never see one face to face.
Yes.
But we see some of these incredible animals, the hoopoe, which is one of my favourite birds actually from the Douro Valley.
And you told me as well that it's very limited edition. So how many bottles are they available if someone wanted to buy one?
So we only release 3,000 bottles a year globally.
Wow.
So it's quite hard to come across, but obviously here at Graham's we make sure that we have our most exclusive wines available.
So the best place to find one is to actually come to Graham's in Porto.
Definitely.
That's brilliant. Port isn't just for Christmas. And as I was coming in, I noticed these beautiful bottles. So tell us a bit more. We have a white port, semi-secco, and we also have a ruby port, blend 12.
So that's exactly right. Obviously, port has a lot of history, tradition, heritage, but there's also a lot of new innovation and we're always trialing and testing different things. And actually, my family have been drinking port and tonics for a very long time, but with the white port that we had, and we actually realised that we wanted to try something different. So we decided, and this was the blend number 5 that was actually launched in 2019. So this is the first ever white port that was blended specifically for mixing. So my cousin Charles, he, with in mind, the port and tonic in mind, he decided to make a port specific for that. So this is incredibly floral, aromatic. We use cold fermentation, so you're really preserving those aromas and the amazing
really,
flavors.
Floral and beautiful.
Yeah. And then a few years later, we then launched the Graham's Blend number 12. So this is a ruby port, again, specifically for mixing. The reason it's called Blend number 12 is because some of the grapes are harvested at midnight. And the reason for that is that at night time, obviously, the temperature drops. So you really retain greater freshness, greater acidity.
The flavours
and
as well.
Exactly. And obviously higher altitude vineyards.
Oh wow, I've just noticed the Queen, the former Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip.
Yeah, so this is the 1952 single harvest, which Graham's actually, we released it to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Graham's has a royal warrant, and obviously we have a few wines that celebrate the royal family. This was actually the same wine that we decided to release to celebrate King Charles's coronation. We felt that it was really poignant. It's a wine that we had used to celebrate and to cheers to the Queen, and we wanted the wine to have some symbolism as well for King Charles.
That's pretty special. And we've got another very special cabinet.
This is an incredibly special wine, not only to Graham's, but particularly also to our family. So this is the Neobly. It's a very old tawny port, and actually it's a port from 1882, which is the year that my great-great-grandfather Andrew James Symington first arrived in Portugal. So I'm the 5th generation.
Wow.
My family first came from Scotland in 1882. And so this wine is incredibly important to us. All of the elements and the packaging of this wine are really thought about the link of the family and of the brand. So you've got the Smythson box, which obviously is in Scotland. And we've got the Atlantis crystal, which is from here in Portugal. We actually only have 2 of these left.
Oh my.
And they're in the lodge.
And when would they be drunk? How would one get a sip of this or a taste of this?
You can actually have a glass in Venum. So they still have
in the
a
restaurant?
very small amount of this wine left for a few people who want to try it by the glass, as well as here in the lodge. And we only have 2 full bottles left for sale that are here in the lodge, but probably not for long.
So Max, what do we have here?
Quite a tasting. So first of all, you will be comparing the aging process in the bottle with the port matured in a cask. Completely different from each other, as you can see by the color right away, as some of these vintage ports are older than these tawnies, but they still hold quite a lot of fruit.
So we're doing a vintage versus a tawny comparison through the ages.
3 glasses of the vintage ports, 2 glasses of aged tawnies. And the vintage setup will allow you to understand how the vintage ages in the bottle, very slowly, as you can see. And not only that, it will allow you to understand at which stage your palate will enjoy it the most. At times we will wait for years, but they could have enjoyed it maybe a bit earlier. It's really up to your taste.
Oh, good. I'm excited. So, where do we start?
Well, it may seem odd, but we would recommend for you to start with the oldest vintage to the newest one.
Oh, okay. And why is that? So we're starting from the 1994 right down to the 2016.
Exactly. So, imagine you tried the 2016 first, and you could think of that 2016 as a baby vintage. It's still full of fruit, full of power, full of energy. So if you tried it out, once you try...
It will kill your palate.
Yes, it's a bit intense. And these more mature vintage ports, they develop some subtle notes that after this fruity and powerful vintage, you may not feel at all.
That's a really good tip. So if you're ever trying port, maybe start with the older vintage so you get the more refined characters and your palate isn't sort of overwhelmed by the younger characters. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the bottle as well. So this is the
94 vintage.
94. And do you, when you're tasting a port, do you swirl or like you do wine?
You could, as often we do try to have the first sense of aroma of this port, and then you could always swirl it in a glass for it to open up a bit more. So you can see this is a slightly different glass when it comes to its shape to a glass of wine.
Yes.
It's a bit shorter.
Yes.
You still have that little foot, so you don't hit it away too much with your hand, but the shape keeps this aroma inside, so your nose is able to catch the most of it. And well, as you try the port, there's not much to it apart from drinking, and, well, at best you could air it out just to get a bit more of it.
So I'm getting some really lovely ripe fruit characters here. What else should I be getting in the 1994?
It's all subjective to your palate and the nose, of course, but you could definitely still feel some fruit, but in a much more elegant and almost like a cooked way. It's like a jammy note. At this stage, some spicier notes, and at this stage you may even identify some leatherish note.
I'm getting that, yes.
And it's fun how you still feel the fruity side to it.
Still quite fresh.
Yeah.
1994, so that is 30 years old.
That's precisely 30 years old.
That's very fresh for a 30-year-old.
And every vintage is bottled just 2 years after their harvest.
Okay.
So whenever they're bottled, they're like this, like a ruby port, full of that fruity power.
Yes.
But if there is a wine that can age in the bottle for the longest time, that's the vintage port. And as you can see, this 94 is still very dark, still with a lot of potential to keep on going.
Yeah.
And if you have time, you can definitely keep it for a longer time.
Yes.
But
it's drinking beautifully right now, though. If I had it, I would recommend you drink it now as well.
I'm really enjoying the 94
Yes.
at this stage. It could also depend on the day. what you had for lunch and your
true.
mood. But as we call, vintage is a one occasion type of a port.
Yes.
Besides being quite rare, limited, it's there to represent best grape of a particular season. These ports, once opened, you need to finish with them in a matter of days.
Within days. So you have to make a decision that you're going to be drinking it and then you don't hang on to it
Exactly.
for too many
You
days. Okay.
Better have a party or invite your closest friends to help you out.
Yeah.
Because you will need.
Sounds like a plan. I actually have one of these. I think I've got the 2010 sitting, waiting to be ready. So yeah, that's
Knowing my
beautiful.
taste, I would wait for that 2020.
Yeah.
For another,
Okay.
maybe 10 years.
Another 10 years. And this is the
2000. Let me get you the bottle of that one.
Oh, that smells completely different. A lot of acidity.
Yes, pretty
Again, really
acidic.
fresh. Delicious. Right, let's do the Tawnies next. Why don't we drink more Tawny? That is amazing.
When it comes to these 40-year-old Tawnies, although it's a lot of fun for the blenders to try ports every year, I can imagine that these could be a nightmare of a task.
This is so fresh, even though it's 40 years old.
Yes, you
How
need
do they
that.
achieve that?
You need that acidity to back up the sugar, because if you have, nonetheless, this is a pretty sweet concentrated drink. Well,
So, food pairings.
exactly. When it comes to the fruitier ports, such as whether you have a vintage or a ruby, we will recommend chocolate with high percentage of cacao, or cheese with strong flavors. From goat, sheep cheese, Stilton, Gorgonzola could do nicely with it.
Nice.
When it comes to the Tawnies, we often recommend something creamier.
Okay.
Precisely, a creme brulee, a simple vanilla ice cream could be a very good combination
Pour
with
it on
this.
top, nice and
Exactly.
chilled.
Again, Portuguese custard tart. They are great pairing with Tawnies. But we also have seen many pairings of Tawnies with actual food. You could see the Venom restaurant serving you a glass of a vintage with a steak.
Yes,
example.
I can see that. This one would be really nice with the mushroom risotto. And so when I say this one, it was a 2016 vintage. And it had that slight bit of umami, almost slightly mushroomy.
We have many people that enjoy port, but they feel, it's too much. I can drink
Too much
one
of a commitment.
glass even now
Yes.
and then. And for them, Tawnies could be often a suitable port, because you could open up a bottle of a Tawny and you can still have it for pretty much a year, especially when it comes to a 40-year-old Tawny.
That's good to know.
As they age in a cask,
Yes.
they already kind of build up a relationship. So they got used to the oxygen. And for those people who enjoy having a couple of glasses, closing that bottle and forgetting about it for a couple of months, those cases, Tawnies are very convenient.
Great.
But for those people who enjoy having something in the collection for a long time and the wine is still improving, for that vintage is the one to go for. So again,
Yes.
each to their own occasion.
Cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Salud. This is where essentially the port keeps on aging. Between all these vats, casks, and the vintage ports, we should have something close to 7 million liters of port. That should be enough for everyone, at least for the upcoming years.
So we've got LBV 2019.
Precisely.
Oh, look at the 6 grapes.
There's the 6 grapes.
I've
very
noticed those on our ships as well.
consistent ruby port from Graham's, our signature ruby.
Okay.
And in these vats, this is where we have the ruby ports, starting their aging process.
Now, is this a temperature gauge or is it a literage gauge? What is this?
This is here to show you how much port is inside these vats, although these are currently turned off.
Okay.
Although the measurement device is empty, you knock on the vat and you realize it's full, otherwise it would be like a big drum.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's true, that's very full.
And you can see how much port is inside.
Oh,
The Coopers left the note, 73,000 liters of port, slightly less in that
Just
6
enough
grapes.
for a party at mine. Wow.
I noticed the white little rocks we have under these vats with the lightning, so we are able to notice if there's any leakage going on. Because as you can see, all these vats, casks are built by hand, and you need a constant attention from the coopers to see if there is a problem. Yes, you need to fix the barrel.
I have just noticed barrels saying 1940 Colheita. What is this?
And you see an indication of a colheita
Colheita.
which is, in Portuguese, a harvest. That term we use for tonies to express that this is a tony precisely for a 1940 single harvest. And as you can see, we have a total of 3 casks, and between the 3 we should have 1,700 liters.
That is amazing.
Let's check out the oldest tony of the lodge. We had a couple of older ones.
Wow, 1935. That's very old.
No, you're from UK.
Yes.
Remember Queen Elizabeth?
Indeed, I do.
So the
Fondly.
Queen, she used to enjoy the tawny ports.
Okay.
And back in the 60s, she appointed grams as her providers of port. Great decision from her. And this single harvest was used for a very special gift. Back in 2016, when the Queen celebrated her 90th birthday, we decided to make her a 90-year-old tawny blend, which is against the law. We had to come up to the Institute to ask for a permission for such crazy blend.
So special blend.
Very special blend, which no one can taste now because it's gone, it's finished, and it was that edition for the Queen.
That's fantastic. Oh my,
This is it.
my. 1868.
That would be
1908.
1868 would be our oldest vintage, and people keep on asking me, what's the price?
Trust me to pick the most expensive,
but
rarest thing
you know what?
possible.
It's never on sale, and you could try your best to negotiate with the Symington
Good
family.
negotiator.
Good luck with it, because I'm pretty sure they will be keeping this nice collection for a long time.
Yes.
And maybe even just for the blenders, for them to understand how such vintage port could behave at such advanced stage.
Yes.
Often people are skeptical on whether this port is still drinkable, but all these bottles that you see here, they were all recorked. All right? Because the cork could...
To keep it sort of the condition.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the joy of having a family library collection. Is
Of course.
It works almost as an experiment to see how long
Exactly.
vintages can last. It is such a wonderful collection.
It is beautiful.
Vicky, thank you so much for showing us about the history and culture.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming. We're really looking forward to welcoming Viking guests. And actually, as you can see, and as we've shown today, that port isn't just for Christmas, and we have all different styles to suit all different types of people, you know, from an amazing vintage port at the end of a meal to a port and tonic on the deck as you're sailing up the Douro Valley.
Can be fun and flirty, doesn't have to be serious.